We also want to thank all the presenters who found time in their busy schedules to put together and present their presentations. Hopefully they assisted you, encouraged you, inspired you, or simply gave you food for thought to support the work that you're doing with your children, family, staff, and communities. We would be seriously remiss if we did not thank our ACF and Ed PDG B5 federal project officers who've spent so much time working to build relationships with you and to be responsive to your needs, your requests, your questions, and your concerns. And finally, not to be forgotten, we want to thank all of the participants who pulled themselves away from their own busy schedules to listen and learn, to strategize and share. Despite the efforts of the TA provider, the presenting states, the federal staff, without you, this convening is meaningless. For it's the synergy that comes from us all working together that makes this and any convening worth its weight in gold. So thank you all for your many contributions. We hope you found valuable nuggets to take back with you and explore further. From our perspective as federal staff, this has been a wonderful opportunity to hear some exciting progress on the part of certain states. But what is also clear to us is that you all are doing fabulous work and making wonderful progress that's benefiting your children, families, staff, and programs. Originally, my plan was to have every state and territory make a presentation, but then folks helped me realize that in order to do that, the convening would have had to run 8 to 10 days. So we quickly nixed that plan. However, I want you all to take a moment and consider where you and your state or territory were prior to receiving PDGB funds and where you are now. The progress made by each and every one of you is truly something to celebrate. So please do celebrate that. Celebrate it today. Celebrate it when you go back to your states with your colleagues and stakeholders. There's tremendous, amazing work that's been done and continues to be done. Now, before we ask you for your feedback, allow us to comment on a few more things we already know about this convening. We know that every one of you could have presented on some aspect of the great work you're doing, and we're truly sorry we could not find a way to highlight that work so that we could hear from each state. We know that by setting up the convening the way we did not allow you sufficient time to interact with your colleagues or to get answers to your questions after listening to federal and state presenters. This too was a trade-off that we hope was not too costly. We know that by attempting to squeeze so many presentations into so short a time period, presenters felt rushed and that they could not present their full story. Participants could not appreciate the complexity or nuances of the information being presented and had no opportunity to seek needed clarification. We also were attempting to balance state presentations with recommendations for federal presentations in state planning time for you to at least briefly consider how what you had just heard might be expanded on by your team once the convening ended and before being thrust back into your day-to-day work. We apologize for these shortcomings, but we wanted you to hear from as many states as possible, thereby creating a desire for you to want to know more and providing you the opportunity to know some of those people with whom you might want to reach out. We finally apologize to those of you who were not given an opportunity to present. This was in no way a statement about the quality of your work or the creativity of your approach. So we look forward to future opportunities to highlight your work as well. Having said all this, I'm now going to ask for any of you who wish to volunteer to take yourself off mute and share any thoughts you have about the convening or about next steps or actually anything at all. You can also put your comments or questions in the chat and know that the official conference evaluation will be coming to you via email shortly after the convening ends. We hope that you'll take a moment to complete this official evaluation, whether or not you share your comments now, because your feedback will help us make decisions about next year's convening and other TA activities in between by telling us what went well, what could be improved, and what your preferences are. My last comment before we take comments or questions from you, we will wrap up after this activity. We will wrap up with some final announcements related to the timing of new awards, the timing related to our next one-year TA contract, the timing of the awarding of our new Workforce Research and TA Center, and the continued 50-state strategy for supporting all states and territories, whether your funding is coming to an end, you are finishing a no-cost extension period, or you are just beginning a new award period. So with that, let's see who would like to come off of mute or type in the chat and share something with the group. Anybody?
Hi, Richard. Christina LaChance from New Hampshire. This was a really great event. I appreciated being here, and I particularly loved hearing from Rhode Island. They're really close to us, so I will definitely be reaching out to pick their brain a little bit more.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate you being the first to speak up. Thanks.
Hello, Richard. This is Pamela from Alabama.
Hi, Pamela.
I just want to say that I appreciate all of your introduction information, because it's all true. There were all such wonderful states, all such wonderful information. But I appreciate the fact that we got to get the little tidbits, but there was all the contact information and all the resource information. I have like copious amounts of printouts already on my desk that I have put in and started to put into a binder. And there are many of these states that I will be reaching out to. I have emails already in draft form for follow-up information. So it was great information.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Pamela.
This is Rachel Stepina in Nevada. I was just gonna ditto that, what Pamela just said. Overall, all the content in the sessions, while there was such a great variety, it is worth the trade-off to be able to hear so many ideas and so many success stories and so many implementation strategies, and all of the different things that we've been able to hear, been pointed to resources, toolkits, people, colleagues, peers have really allowed us to continue to explore the strong early childhood network that we have in our country, and then specifically how these work within PDG, whether we're currently implementing funding or not. So all of those resources are well worth the trade-off that you mentioned earlier. And it was a nice balance with the state team time to be able to apply some of those things directly.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate your comments. Thanks. Others? This is also a chance for you to ask questions about anything. Well, I assume your questions all have to do with funding, but besides that, if you have other questions, you can ask them now as well.
Hi, Richard. It's Patty Purcell from New York. So I was, it's been great, the parts that I could attend, and Katie Ham did a nice job. I was at this morning, I don't even know what day it was, but I was mesmerized when she was saying, like, she used the example, like PDG grants could be sort of like Head Start, like the funding would be there so that states could look to expand slots for children. And I was like, I didn't know if I was interpreting it in a different way. So if you have any kind of insight into what her thinking was, it was very short, so I don't want to read more into it than was there. But like, I know Congress and all that, blah, 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 but what's the flavor? What's going on?
Well, okay, so I'm going to give Richard's perspective, okay? So everybody take that with a grain of salt. But Richard's perspective is this. When Congress first provided this funding, they said this was going to be one time, that was it, don't expect any more money. And then the next year we received more money. And then the next year we received more money. And this year, although we're waiting for a passed budget, there's no indication we're not going to get more money. So I think what Katie is attempting to say is we don't have a crystal ball into the future, but there isn't any negative information coming our way. We're not hearing, this has got to stop, this funding is not being used. And all of you who've heard me talk before know that I keep saying the most important thing for you to do if you want this funding to continue is to tell your story, speak to your legislators, let them know what I said at the very beginning, the difference this funding has made for you. Where were you before this funding happened, and where are you now? What progress have you made or would you not have been able to make had you not received this funding? And what Katie is suggesting is that a bold strategy, when Head Start was funded, nobody knew if Head Start was going to keep being funded. But we jumped out there and we provided services, and then those services helped prove the importance of the services and led to more funding. So I think Katie's message and our message is really, sometimes it requires us to be bold and to take certain action, but then to tell the story, to let people know this makes a difference. Because I have to tell you, most of the legislators that I've had a chance to speak to have no clue what's happening in their own state with the money that has come available to them. And I think that's true at a state level, at a federal level. You've heard me say already, we're terrible at telling our story, and we just have to get better at it. And I think we are getting better at it. So I think we see no indication that the funding is not going to continue. So we're going to assume it will and keep our fingers crossed. The other thing I'll say is, when you heard Katie say how we, through discussions with our legal office, we determined that we could start the cycle over again, because the only thing the language said was you can't renew a renewal grant. It didn't say you can't renew a planning grant. So we're starting the cycle again. There was an opportunity for people to say absolutely not, and we didn't get that message. So I think right now we're trying to read the unspoken message and say, well, nobody's telling us, how dare you ask for this much money? or what do you mean you're going to try to expand again? So we actually believe that the feeling or the tone in the country is one that says that if there is evidence that this money is worth providing, we will try to keep providing it. Colleen, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think it was what you said is exactly right, Richard. And I wasn't here for Katie's remarks, but, can imagine the same. I think just that idea, Head Start technically, it is a discretionary program that every year it could go away. Like half of childcare is a discretionary program that every year, and that is what PDG is. We even have a couple of years in the last administration that it was, the administration suggested that it would be cut, and Congress still didn't cut it. So there's a lot to be said for the idea that the money, you should act like it and spend like it and innovate like it. I just was hearing a comment that was made earlier, like this is, or we should have more money for innovation in early childhood in the federal government. And I think that's totally true. And a lot of programs have a lot of lot of restrictions around them. And this one does not. And so it really gives some, it has some, obviously, but it doesn't have as many restrictions as like Head Start, for example, where Patty and I come from. So I think the idea, the ability to innovate, the ability to tell your story, like Richard said, and prove why the money is youthful and why there is something more than the programs, where the place that PDG makes here is important, and to start thinking like that it could do things like slots, because we have no reason to think that it wouldn't come back. So just seconding what Richard said.
Yeah. And many of you have said over these past 2 years that one of the things that you appreciated by this funding is the tremendous flexibility, that it's allowed you to change direction and try new things. And really, because it's so broad, you're talking about a birth to 5 continuum, you're talking about systems building, you've got a lot of flexibility here. And we're seeing that. And you heard that from so many of the presenters and your colleagues in the last couple of days and before. So anyhow, thank you for that question, Patty. That's my best guess at why you should do this. But anyhow, you could just say Richard said, not the federal government said.
It's very good advice. I think we all forget, we get so wound up in all our work and we couldn't do another thing. And then it's like, oh my God, nobody knows what we're doing. So I wrote it down with exclamation points like, yes, we could send a 1-pager to all the important people that we need to be sending it to. Instead of telling them what to do, we can say like, hey, FYI, here's this great stuff going on. Here's the benefits we're seeing. This has been such a wonderful 3 years or 1 year or whatever it is for our state. Great idea. And
let me
so
take what you
easy.
just
It's
said.
the easiest thing we'll do all day.
Let me just say what you just said made me think, hey, maybe it's a monthly update to them. Maybe you take your quarterly report to leadership and you pass it out to them. I mean, parts of it, not all of it. But anything like that. You don't have to create a whole new thing, but let them know what you're doing and what difference it's making. So thank you guys. Other
The
comments or
infographics-
questions?
Sorry.
No,
You
go
got
ahead,
me all
Patty. Go
wound
ahead.
up.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, some of the states have really cool infographics and like stuff that you already made. And it's short and to the point, and it's just very motivational. So that little scenario you guys just said, that is perfect. Thank you.
Good. All right, excellent. Other comments or questions?
Richard, this is Morgan Crossman from Vermont. I lead Vermont's Early Childhood State Advisory Council and just wanted to follow up on this idea of meeting with your congressional delegation and what that means.
Okay.
Our State Advisory Council and leadership meets with our delegation quarterly, and they know what federal funding we're looking towards. They are looking at what the issues are on behalf of kids and families and this entire early childhood network that we bring together every single quarter. So I would highly suggest, if you aren't doing that, to partner with your state advisory council or whoever is serving as your primary advisors to the governor, the legislature, and your delegation to be doing that more consistently, because it's making a difference in Vermont.
What difference, just out of curiosity, what kind of difference are you seeing?
They're coming to the state advisory council and asking questions of us. They're seeing us as the primary advisors. We have this really robust, and I heard a lot of other states talk about this. We have a regional network. We have a strategic plan committee network. We have our state advisory council, and they're looking to us for the data. They're looking to us to elevate family voice. What are the needs of kids and families? And how should we be thinking about this? What is it doing to inform our decision-making on the national level? What support do you need in Vermont? And what pressure do you need to be putting on Vermont's legislature? So we're seeing a significant impact, and just having that relationship building and the open lines of communication is really critical.
Thank you for sharing that, Morgan. Very, very important message. Appreciate it. Other comments or questions?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. All right, well, so a couple of thoughts. One is just,
First of all, who's speaking?
this is Wendy Baker
Oh,
from
okay,
Nebraska. I'm sorry, Richard.
Yeah, that's okay.
First of all, just the affirmation, both around right direction, feeling, hearing from others about success and, oh, yes, okay, that's the right direction where we're headed. But then also around the challenges and moral support around, you're not alone in this. These are challenges, despite our unique system and world. In Nebraska, it is very affirming to hear from others about the challenges they face and propose and get solutions to some of those, or ideas for solutions. That really was very fulfilling and rewarding. Related to participation. When we talk about public will and federal level support, I have to say I was thinking about, we have some workforce experts, of course, in our state who have been working on looking at the relationship between childcare, workforce, and gross domestic product. This is where our economic future is. And so our ability to do that, to be able to demonstrate that, I think is very compelling. And I know it's very, very, very challenging work. But I honestly think that's a means of understanding that does develop public will and congressional support. And I don't know to what degree you've explored that, Richard, or if you're talking about those kinds of approaches, but certainly having tools to help states do that, I think would be helpful in terms of trying to build a big picture.
So you know what I would say quickly, Wendy, why don't you send me an email and maybe we can follow up, have some more conversation about that. I do think that the Workforce Research and TA Center that we're about to fund, and the fact that many states have had an opportunity to help pilot ideas with that group is going to be just one way to begin to explore pilots, avenues, innovation, and the agenda for that hasn't been created yet. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to look at what exactly do we do? Where do we focus our attention? So we should definitely have more conversation, and anybody is always welcome to shoot emails to me with ideas, things we should try at the federal level, things that we're not doing right. We want to hear about that as well. So thank you, Wendy.
Thanks for the encouragement, Richard. I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? I think someone else was going to speak when Wendy was about to speak as well.
Yes. Hi, Richard. Lorna from Connecticut.
Hey, Lorna.
Thank you so much. I echo all of the comments and sentiments that have been shared, have generally genuinely enjoyed the convening all 3 days. And not only just this experience, but the previous ones, because I think, as has been shared here, it's very validating when you are connecting with colleagues and hearing their stories and getting validated in thoughts you may have and areas of growth that are acknowledged as well. And I really appreciate, Patty, the question that you asked, and Richard, you followed up with it as well as Colleen, in terms of sustainability and legislatively speaking. How can we advocate for our legislature? And Morgan in Vermont, my, oh my, I am impressed with you and what you and your state is doing. And I think it just really goes to show the importance of telling your story, because people can't unhear what they heard. And whether the funding is there or not, you heard it, but you can't pretend you didn't hear it. And so we know the needs that our families and children face in the community, they are there. They're going to be there. And us advocating all the more for our legislature to acknowledge that real time is important. And I appreciate the way that we're saying we must be genuine for what we're advocating for and not trying to put that square peg in a circle. It is what it is. And I also really appreciate the candor and recognizing many of the challenges that we're talking about were existing prior to the pandemic. And the realities of these are going to continue even as we are in an endemic. So very much appreciate the validation, the camaraderie, and just very much appreciate all of this, even virtually. Certainly in person would be wonderful, but making the best of it virtually was nonetheless appreciated. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lorna. We appreciate your comments. Any other comments or questions? People who know me from webinars know that I asked that question 3 times to make sure that anyone else who has a thought could ask it. So I'm going to ask it 3 times. Are there any more comments or questions?
Hi, Howard. I mean, it's Howard. I'm so sorry. I was thinking about Howard.
That's okay.
Hi, Richard. It's Lizzie Calvo from Guam. I'm so happy to connect with you again after so long. I just want to just give the same sentiments as many here, that this week was just so great. Even though us on Guam, it's the future here, it's Friday morning, we had to get up early, but it was so worth it. So worth it. It's always worth it for us to, wake up when the sky's not awake yet and be with everybody and listen to just all the great things that are happening across our wonderful country and throughout PDG and all the early childhood programs.
Liz, what time is it in Guam right now?
Right now it's 7:52 a.m. on Friday, December 9th.
So you started at what, 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 a.m.
4
Well, I think we've got to
a.m.
come up. I think we've got to come up with a special award for Guam, because you guys always end up attending, and you attend in numbers. I'm not up at 4 a.m. So the fact that I know I get emails at 2 a.m. It's crazy stuff. So you guys do a wonderful job. Thank you for participating. Thank you for your comments as well.
Yes,
and thank
thank
your
you so much.
colleagues and folks in Guam for all the work that they're doing.
So half a day, Richard. This is Colleen from Guam, also the numbers, but we're so small. We, like what you said, well, we try and be here, but I think because the information was also great, we have big regrets that we didn't bring some of our state partners, Head Start, Ed, and yes, so, and CCDF folks, because all the information, that was the whole time. I took like a ton of screenshots and just, oh my gosh, I have to get with them. And so yes, it was, that would be my only regret, that we didn't have the opportunity to reach out and invite them also. But
So
thank
the good
you.
news,
Just
Pauline,
excellent.
The
Yes.
good news, Pauline, is most of those sessions are recorded and they're going to become
Yes.
available. So although
Awesome.
it's not the same and you don't have a chance for the interaction, you can watch the recordings when they become available, and you could find planning time and come create your own state time and plan together after you listen to the recordings. So that's something to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Are there any other comments or questions? Are there any other comments or questions? Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, well, before we go then, thank you all for those of you who participated in the chat or who spoke up. Thank you. For those of you who didn't speak up, you have a chance to share your thoughts when the evaluation comes your way. By the way, it's going to come to you. Your evaluation survey will come no later than tomorrow, and it's going to come from PDG-convening, the same email address that you've been receiving for the conference, the PDG-convening@anlaw.com. So look out for it and please fill it in. We would love your feedback. So now for the promised final comments. This is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, but we don't have any information to share just yet. But who thought it was a great idea to do a competition and a convening and three other things at the same time? I'm not sure. But in any case, we're doing it. So you guys know from your own state and territory procedures that things often don't move as quickly as you want them to. So we're starting the process for awards for renewal grants. For those of you who applied and been accepted, we'll be starting the awards for planning grants for those of you who have applied and will be able to be awarded. But the deadline, we have to award by December 31st. So the only thing you know is that you're going to hear by December 31st. It's our goal my personal goal was to get the awards out by December 20th. I don't know if we'll make that target, but that's certainly the earliest you would see them. And we'll do the best we can. What I wanted to say though is that we're going to continue our 50-state strategy, right? So if you do not get funded, you're still going to be invited to things. If you're an existing grantee who applied for a planning grant, you'll still be part of the webinars and other things of that nature. So we're going to keep everybody in the loop, everybody to continue to have an opportunity to hear the latest news, to see the latest tools, to learn from each other at webinars and convenings, etc. So the thing to know is that we will try to get, you'll definitely know at the end of the year who was awarded and who wasn't. And we apologize in advance for any of you who don't get awarded, but there's only so much money. By the way, just as a money perspective, just another reason to think about what Katie said. We started at $250, it went to $275, it's now $290 a year. We keep asking for $450, but we haven't gotten that yet. So, but if we ever get the $450, we can fund almost everybody. But the point, again, another point, it keeps going up. Even though it only goes up a little, it keeps going up. So another sign of interest and a desire to keep allowing states to move in this direction. The other thing is that that because the existing TA contract we had no option years, we could not extend the time, we had to do a competition. So we did a 1-year TA contract competition that is also in process. The TA provider now, SRI and their partners, obviously are continuing to work to the end of this contract, which is December 26th, strangely enough. And as soon as we can make a decision about the award for the TA contract, we'll share it with everybody. There's a transition plan in place if they're not selected. If they are selected, it is still a transition plan from the old contract to the new contract. And if we were to change contractor, we would work with you in the transition. If we keep the same contractor, then you'll know all the players already, and that should go smoothly. You heard me mention about the Workforce Research and TA Center. That's going to be announced also before the end of December. Well, yeah, so we have to award the funds before the end of December. Actually, it may not be announced to January, but we have to award the funds. But in any case, there's going to be then a reach out, more information to you on what that center is going to be doing, how you can feed into it, how you can take advantage of the resources and work being done, or be included on the list for information, etc. And then the other thing is that just basically, if you are a state that has a no-cost extension for your existing renewal grant, we'll be meeting with you and talking to you. We're also looking at ways to do more presentations like we just did at this convening, but in webinars interspersed throughout the year, so that we can highlight certain states, so that maybe my picture of every state presenting could finally come true by the time we get to the end of the year. And so you'll hear more about that as well. So with that, I think that's all that there is to share right now. We're at the hour. We thank you again for your tremendous commitment of time and participation, your interest, and your support. Please do send emails if you have thoughts about things we could do differently or better, or things we might want to strategize with you on, things that we're not doing so well. And our two departments will continue to strategize and plan and work with you to get the work done as best we can. So thank you all. Hopefully you get a little time off tomorrow, and if you don't, enjoy your weekend, and happy holidays to everybody. Take care. Great to hear from you all, and see you.